Hi Scrubs, I hope you're well. So this video today is going to be a little bit more serious than my usual stuff. This video is not aimed at one particular person or one particular group of people because this problem is much more widespread than that. This problem has been here before I started playing, and cyberbullying and cyber harassment are going to be here long after I leave. So what I want to talk about is the hashtag that Quicksilver started, which was the Starfam United hashtag. And I watched Quicksilver's video, and I also watched Rose Shadowley's video on this, and I want to kind of talk about some of the things that they were discussing, and I just want to talk about my own thoughts on it as well as I will also talk about what cyberbullying can involve, how you can protect yourself, and what to do if you're a victim of cyberbullying or cyber harassment, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So, now this part, I am not sure how many people are going to receive this part, but I think I need to say it, and I'm going to explain, so please don't freak out, just hear me out here. On the internet, no one cares who you are. It doesn't matter how many followers you've got. Nobody cares who you are. Nobody cares who I am, okay? And this is something to stress, because on the internet, people don't get to meet you. You don't get to see you. Therefore, it's much easier to attack you. Now, does that make it okay to attack you? No, it does not. It does not make it acceptable in any shape or form to then attack you. But on the internet, people feel like they can get away with anything. And I've seen it time and time again. All kind of places. Inside the game, outside the game. Different communities, different games. And it's very important to remember that. Now, this does not mean that no one cares who you are. There are people who love you. There are people who care about you. Even sometimes if they're strangers. I mean, I care about people. I want people to be okay. I want people to be happy. I don't want people to be bullied or harassed, because I've experienced that myself. And it's really, really unkind. It's not okay. And it disgusts me. It really, really, quite frankly, angers me, and I don't let people away with it, because I've been in the shoes of that person. I've been that victim, and I do not want to see somebody else go through that. So, like, this is why I'm trying to say this. While on the internet no one might care who you are and no one cares who I am, that does not mean that you let someone disrespect you, okay? Now, going forward a little bit, like, as an ambassador in the community, I'm quite heavily involved with the community. I get messages all the time, screenshots, videos sent to me, both inside the game and outside of the game. Sometimes it's people doing really great things. Sometimes it's people doing really horrible, horrible things. And it makes me question sometimes, like, why do people cyberbully and cyber harass? Like, is it because they've seen somebody who is against their kind of ideals and what they stand for as a person, and then they feel that they have to attack that person for that? Could it be that they're just angry for other reasons? Some people just do it, frankly, for fun and a sense of power. But why people cyberbully does not, therefore, excuse the cyberbullying. It does not do that. Like, I know I have looked at global a lot of times. I don't typically go into global, like Rose mentioned this, because people fight in global over nothing. I've seen people fighting over club names. I've seen people fighting over what clothes they're wearing, levels, user names, and some of the stupidest things I have witnessed. It is a virtual horse game, okay? There is no need to fight over these things. There's nothing gained by that. There are plenty of things in the world right now that we need to be paying attention to, like climate change and, you know, world hunger and stuff, and those might seem like really big things, and how the heck are you going to deal with those? But if we waste our time on stupid stuff like this, then we don't actually get to talk about the things that matter, okay? Now, going forward a little bit, you know, you don't know at the end of the day what somebody's going through in real life, and unless you're wearing their shoes, or put yourself into their shoes and understand that, you may not necessarily get a chance to actually get to know them. I mean, I have met people in the game who haven't been exactly shining examples of how to behave, and some of them I've got to know, some of them I realised were just nasty people, and some of them I realised actually this is maybe coming from a place of hurt. Maybe they have been previously judged and they're very defensive. So they have this sort of, I'm trying to think, this wall up, and they're quite, you know, they're quite attacking with people. And actually, once I've got to know them, they've actually realized that it's okay, and you don't have to be like that all the time, and some of them have turned out to be really awesome people. And if I hadn't maybe given them the time of day, you know, that wouldn't have happened, you know. Now, it's not to say that everybody, because I have met people that no matter what, I just can't deal with. We all have those people. We all have those people who are the complete opposite to us in everything that they stand for, possibly, or just in the way they behave. And I can understand, you know, you're just better not being involved with that. Just step back and not do it, because it doesn't go anywhere. You just butt heads. You don't actually get anything progressive out of that. Now, one of the things that I typically see, you know, is this sort of vicious circle, and cyberbullying and cyber harassment will always be an ongoing fight. It's always going to be an issue, but that doesn't mean that we can't do better. We can, alright? I don't care what age you are, I don't care if you're 10, I don't care if you're 40, I don't care where you come from. You can be a good role model. It doesn't matter about the number of followers you have, it doesn't matter about anything like that, because they're just numbers, okay? It's about standing up and being a good role model regardless of who you are. And I know that Rose talked about kind of staying away from what she called negativity, and personally I feel sometimes like I do as well. Now, I will say one thing, I don't want people to confuse negativity with criticism of, say, the game, because if you're just criticizing something you don't like, I do that too. There's times that things come out in the game that I don't particularly like, and I turn around and start to, I'm like, well, I didn't really like this, and this is why, you know, X, Y, Z, for these reasons. Something else comes out, and I'm like, oh, I love this, and this is why I love this. And then there'll be something that comes out that I feel neutral about, and I don't really care either way. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm kind of saying is there's a difference between being negative and being nasty and being a bully and being harassing. And I think people need to maybe sometimes get those things and understand that, because while I sometimes feel that there are some people in the community who are so negative all the time, I'm kind of like, this is a bit draining on me, because I'm the kind of person that I get really drained by people. Generally, it doesn't matter which way, it doesn't matter how they behave, I typically get drained, and that's just a trait that I have, that I know that I have, and I have to take time out sometimes. I mean, I took a short break from Instagram about a week ago, roughly. I don't even think it was a week ago, it was not long, but I took a break off Instagram for about a week because there was just so much going on, and I just suddenly just felt like I can't deal with this on top of this. So I came back and I stood back and I just kind of let everything go. And like, that wasn't just what was going on in the community, it was more also what was going outside of the community as well. But sometimes I think you kind of do feel that you sort of have to come away and you don't really want to deal with things, and I understand where Rose is coming from in that respect. Like, sometimes you just kind of go, I don't want to deal with this on my own, this is too much, and you kind of back up, and I do that too. Like, I follow people from all across the community, and some people have surprised me over time, maybe have not started out that well and been quite hateful, and there's a difference between being hateful and being, you know, criticizing things. There's just a big difference, but have really surprised me over time and turned that around and been a much more positive force in the community. It doesn't mean you have to be happy about everything, okay? That's something I'm going to stress. I'm not happy about everything all the time. I can't do that. Respect anybody that can, because I can't do it. But, you know, I just think that sometimes, as much as it's really hard when somebody's being a bully and being abusive, to just ignore it. Sometimes it's very hard to ignore it. Sometimes you just have to say no. That's not okay. And they may stop and they might not. And if they don't stop, ignore them. Make it quite clear that you don't want anything else to do with them. You know, put them on block. And because the reason I say this is because it's very easy to become the bully. I have seen many a case of, you know, let's say a girl in global, you know, says something nasty to somebody else, and the other people who are friends of that person are like, how dare you, and they jump on them, okay, and they start harassing them, then they become the bully of that situation, although it started off, the other person started it, but these other people are getting involved in it. And I really have to say, don't do that. I see it in global time and time again. I see it on other platforms time and time again. It doesn't actually fix anything, okay? It really doesn't. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, excuse me, but that was uncalled for. But there's a difference between that and then calling them all of the lovely colours of the rainbow in a really unpleasant way. So basically, don't become part of that vicious circle. Don't become the bully. Look at what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with criticizing somebody that's done something wrong and calling them out for it and saying, you did wrong here, and this is why you did wrong. But don't, you know, effing blind at them, because that's not right, okay? You know, be a good role model. Treat people how you want to be treated. I really, really doubt that many people out there want to be treated badly by others. I really doubt it. If you're maybe that one person that's like, I want to be treated badly by other people, okay, I don't know what's up with that, but I really don't think that I'm going to meet somebody that actually wants to be treated like that all the time, okay? I don't think anybody wants to be treated like that all the time. You know, end of the day, there's nothing wrong with criticizing somebody, calling them out for doing something they shouldn't have done, but don't then give them abuse, because that's whenever you're just becoming part of that cycle, you know. And things like mental health, you know, are such a big thing now, especially because of the internet. Like, you know, people who use social media it's already been shown that they are more at risk of things like further mental health problems, suicide, things like that, you know. And in some cases now, people have actually gone to jail for cyberbullying and cyber harassment. People have lost their jobs. You know, cyberbullying is now against the law, or is becoming against the law in a lot of other places, because people have taken their own lives or come to harm because of somebody else's actions and the words that they've spoken to them. And okay, you might be going, right, okay, well, I've kind of hurt somebody, can't I just apologize? You can apologize, but that doesn't mean that person has to accept it. They might not accept it. They might forgive you, but that doesn't mean they ever have to trust you again. And personally, if somebody was to really hurt me, I might or I may not forgive them, but I definitely would never trust them again, you know. And if you're an empowered individual, then empower others. Don't knock them down. Don't destroy them, because then what does that say about you? What does that say about you? If that's what you're doing, look at yourself, because it says, the things that you say more about you than it do about the person that you're saying them to sometimes. That's something to bear in mind. And I just want people to know that, like, it's okay to hurt, it's okay to feel not okay. You don't have to put up a front and pretend you're alright all the time. But at the same time, don't take that out on other people, you know. And if you're somebody that you see somebody who's hurting, or, you know, maybe is stressed out, is anxious, or is on their own, invite them to have a chat, or to just hang out, or whatever, because you don't know how much that small gesture could mean to someone, especially to somebody that's been isolated and, you know, rejected by other people because of stupid things like the clothes that they're wearing in the game, or their player level, or whatever. You don't know how much that little gesture means to them. Never forget that. And if you see somebody struggling, reach out, give them that hand, and just say, if you want to chat, you know, just listen to them. You don't have to do anything but listen. Just be that ear there that they need. You know, I mean, the one thing that always has stuck with me is that discussion. I remember it was like a metaphor about bullying, and it was a piece of paper. There was a teacher in a classroom, and he had a piece of paper, and he asked the students to draw on it, to crunch it up, and throw it around the room. So this beautiful crisp piece of paper suddenly was this sort of crunched up ball of sort of mess. And then he asked the students to flatten the paper out again, try to make it look like it did before. And no matter what they did, they couldn't make it how it looked before because the damage was already done. And I always like to think about that with bullying, because you can try and apologize, you can try and fix it, you can try and make it better, but the truth is the scars are still always going to be there. And you might not see them on the surface, but they're there. And I know this is a really hard thing to deal with, and as Rose mentioned, sometimes you just don't want to deal with it. You just want to kind of push it into the dark, and I'm definitely guilty of doing that sometimes. And really, you don't want to be fighting your own head when there's so much negativity from other people towards maybe you. You don't want to be fighting that along with your own mind, because I know some of us would know that our own minds are our biggest enemy. Now, I kind of want to talk about some of the things that cyberbullying itself can actually involve, and this can include things like virtual mobbing, which is encouraging other players to harass somebody on social media, doxing, which is where you publish somebody's personal information. I do remember reading somewhere that somebody had the experience that they had bought a club name from the game, and then they started getting harassed by people who had previously owned it, but who had let go of it. And they've threatened to publish this person's personal information onto some really dodgy websites. If anybody ever does that to you, you report that immediately. Immediately. Don't wait. The next thing I sort of want to say is trolling, where you're posting messages to try and provoke an angry response, like baiting, accusing somebody of having done something and seeing if they sort of take that. Cyberstalking, where your repeated use of online messages to frighten or harass somebody. Now, I will say one thing: if you have the experience that somebody attacks you, harasses you, cyberbullies you on one platform, and you block them and you report them on that platform, and then they do it on another platform, or they start making multiple accounts to continue to harass you, now that's a red flag. That's dangerous. Report that immediately. Make whatever platforms you're on, make them aware of that, because that is, to me, very dangerous. If somebody's actively trying to find you wherever they can, that's very, very dangerous. Flaming, where you're abusing somebody in a live forum or a live chat or something like that. Now, ways that you can protect yourself: don't post your personal information, such as your home address or your password, anywhere online. Don't give your mobile phone number or any personal stuff to people you don't actually know in real life. Be careful about posting images of yourself or your friends. Learn how to block messages on Star Stable. So if a player's harassing you, right click on them, click ignore. If you can only see their name in the chat, then right click on their name and then click ignore. Don't be afraid to ignore people. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to ignore because I don't want to be mean. Here's a bit of advice with that. If somebody is attacking you and they're not stopping, I can guarantee that they'll probably have no problem doing the exact same thing to somebody else. And if somebody attacks me, okay, I'm an adult, I'd probably just be like, right, whatever. But if I don't report that person, and then that player goes and attacks a vulnerable individual, maybe a young person, maybe somebody who's going through a lot of mental, health issues, that person could really do some serious damage. And that's why I always say that don't feel mean when you report somebody who's doing something they shouldn't have been doing, because they shouldn't have been doing it to begin with. That's the way to look at that. If you have the ability to put your account on private, if you say, for example, you have an Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, make sure it's not public so people can't see that kind of stuff. And if you're a victim of cyberbullying, especially if you're not an adult, talk to an adult such as a parent or a relative or a teacher. Report the bullying, whether it's reporting it to your school or to the platform that you're using, to your internet service provider or whatever, things like Instagram, YouTube, etc. And don't respond to the bully, really try not to, because a lot of them kind of want that response. And always, 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 and I can't stress this enough, save the evidence of the bullying. Take screenshots, take videos, keep it all together, because you don't know when you might need it, okay? You might think that this is a one-time thing. It may not be. This person might be coming for you. You're better having it there so that you can send it to the platform that you're using if necessary. So basically, I hope I've talked about everything that I wanted to talk about, because there's so much to talk about in this. You know, at the end of the day, if you need help, talk to somebody. If you see somebody that is in need of help, reach out to them. Okay? That's all you need to do. Don't become the bully. Don't become involved in that vicious cycle. And just let's all together try and do our bit, okay, to make everybody, you know, in the community have a much more pleasant existence in it. You know, we're here for a good time, not a long time, so there's no point in being miserable. And, you know, at the end of the day, if we all come together, there's more chance of us actually making a positive change than us trying to do things on our own, because as Rose mentioned a couple of times, you know, sometimes you want to just push it to the side, you don't want to think about it, and I can understand that, because sometimes I feel like that too. It's like there's so much to deal with, oh, I can't do it. But let's try and make an effort to do that. Anyway, Scrubs, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you had a lovely day, and bye guys!